Welcome to Board Gamers Anonymous, the podcast about board gamers and the insane fun we have at the table together. This is Chris.
This is Anthony.
And this is Chris.
And this is episode 473, BGG Hotness, for April 2024. We'd like to thank all our Patreon backers for helping us bring you a brand new episode. Hey friends, we're back, and of course, we're talking about the hottest games out there, the BGG Hotness. Anthony, these are hot, super hot, kind of hot, warm, lukewarm?
Hot and spicy, or really weird. It's always one of the two. There's no in between. We were just talking about this before we hopped on to record. Half the games on this list are for inane reasons that we like to uncover and discuss.
Yes. Uh-huh.
The other half are because people are actually playing them, which is boring. I want the weird stuff.
Yeah, we want more UFOs, some cryptics, some Illuminati stuff happening there. But for this week, to bring all of that kind of stuff to the table, we got Chris from Board Games for the Better. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
Chris has been on before, so he knows that we're, kind of insane. So it's fine. He's accepted. He's accepted us, and it's fine. It's just fine. Before we get into all the kind of fun stuff, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Yeah, so Board Games for the Better is a nonprofit organization. We use board games to help people going through difficult times, bringing games to families that are going through either housing issues or children in foster care, people who are in temporary housing for any number of reasons. So we've been doing this for about 2 years.
Excellent. More people playing more games in more places where they have not played them before. So we're big fans. We love all the work that you're doing. And again, as always, we ask everyone to check you out online and support getting those games out there. Chris, where can they find you?
So you can find us at boardgamesforthebetter.org. You can also find us on Facebook at Board Games for the Better, or same with Instagram.
Excellent. So now we were talking about the BGG Hotness. So that's what we'll be talking about for the feature review. But Anthony, before we get into that, we got some other things happening. Why don't you bring us up to date?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, all three of us actually were at Long Island Tabletop Gaming Expo.
Yay! Hey guys! Hey everybody!
It was a blast. We had a lot of fun. It's great. We get to do it at the Cradle of Aviation Museum, which is like the weirdest, coolest, most random place to have a board game convention.
Mm-hmm.
And like we spend most of our time at our tables, our booths, and then presenting. But like the two things that always stand out to me are wandering into the museum proper where everybody's playing RPGs and thinking like, man, I wish I had time to do that. That seems like a really cool place to do that.
Yeah.
And then presenting in the IMAX theater, which we did last year and we did again this year. And so we have recordings of that coming up. So
nice.
We're going to be posting those to the Patreon as audio files. You can download and listen to them as podcasts. We have a one is Leveling Up Your Tabletop Teach, where we talk about all the best practices for teaching board games in academic, personal, family settings, whatever. And then we have Level Up Your Mental Health, which was led by Will, who's been on the show as well, talking about the role of board games in maintaining and leveling up our mental health. So keep your eyes out for those. We are working on the files. We'll have them up when they're ready, but they will be on the Patreon. They'll also be on YouTube if you want to watch the video. But if you want the audio version only, it's exclusively on Patreon. There'll be bonus episodes up there.
Yeah, no, we had a great time. And again, thanks to everyone out there. And we go through some pretty deep stuff, both on the teach and on the mental health side for tabletop role-playing games and tabletop board games. So check it out. There's something there for everybody. And it's a good time, too, on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun being there.
Excellent. Well, Anthony, there is something, I guess, more or less in the news. There's a little board game company, that's chugging up the hill, trying to do some things. And then a thing happened.
Yeah. So last week, and we record this on Friday, and I was editing the podcast on Tuesday. So I was listening back to my rant about infinite growth and how it doesn't work. Guess what, y'all? It doesn't work. Infinite growth is not a thing. So we were talking about like how the debt gets dumped on these companies and it's get run into the ground. And guess what happened? Embracer Group, which recently purchased Asmodee like a year and a half ago, and then messed up all their financing by failing to secure whatever backing they were supposed to get from the Saudi government, has taken all of their debt and refinanced it and dumped it on Asmodee. So that's fun. Asmodee, probably the most generally percentage-wise profitable of their segments, and this is a company that's bought up like 100 different studios, mostly in video games, but also Asmodee. They also famously bought the rights to Lord of the Rings, period, which is crazy. So they took all that debt. It was like $700-800 million financed through a new loan that's secured against the assets of Asmodee. The result is that Asmodee now has a debt to profit ratio of 3.9, which is about 25% higher than like the highest mark you want to run at to be a healthy company. They have so for those of you out there who play 18xx games, which I love, they have suitcased Asmodee. They have taken a company. They're like, I'm going to start a second company. I'm going to dump all my debt into it. I'm going to mess with you. Now I'm going to dump it on you, and you now own this company that's worth nothing. So Asmodee has 18 months to pay back this loan. They can't. There's no way they can do that unless they raise it through like stock sales, because they've now been spun off of their own company. So unless a lot of people want to buy stock in a board game company, which
that's massively in debt,
or more likely they're going to start selling off assets. So we're going to see Catan and Azul and all these like things that are worth a lot of money because they sell a lot of copies. Ticket to Ride, Days of Wonder, may or may not get split off or sold off to other companies, or who knows what it'll look like. This is effectively what happened to Toys R Us. Bain Capital took them as part of their portfolio, dumped a bunch of debt in them to clear up other companies, and then just like parceled it out into nothingness. And then they went bankrupt. And now Toys R Us only lives on as a brand that is occasionally used to like open a pop-up store. So it's a little schadenfreude, because the people who took the company and like devoured all these other small companies, you're like, oh, okay, well, we knew this was going to happen. But mostly it's sad because they own everything, right?
Sure.
Asmodee owns all the stuff, and now they also have all the debt. And I don't know that a board game company could pay off almost $1 billion in debt in 18 months. So unless we buy a lot of Arkham card games.
So do you think that something like this could like possibly mean that like we can see like old Fantasy Flight kind of come back if they have to like sell off those assets?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like the people who were there who made that company what it was, like Christian Peterson and Corey Kineska, they're gone. Kineska has his own company that's kind of tangentially related to Asmodee. We'll talk about one of those new games that they have later. But Peterson's gone. He's off making Keyforge stuff and throwing it up on GameFound.
But then isn't that better then? Because that means if Asmodee has to sell stuff off, they could pick it up. So the people who made Fantasy Flight what it was, it might not be under the same name, but they could always purchase back their IPs that they've wanted to work on now.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if we see, Peterson, who has a company now, buy back the rights to Twilight Imperium or to the Rune Wars universe or something.
That'd be really nice to see.
Yeah, like IPs that he created, so he can get them back. I don't know what's going to happen to stuff like the Star Wars license, the Game of Thrones license. Embracer still owns the Lord of the Rings license, so that one's still there. But like Disney
Star
might be
Wars
like,
is the big one though,
right? Yeah, like Disney might be like, well, this company's almost bankrupt. Maybe we'll give this to someone else. I don't actually know how that works at all.
We'll get a Star Wars Lorcana set now,
right? Now Ravensburger's in charge. So I don't know. Probably this means bad things. We don't really know, and I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, so grain of salt. I just am deeply annoyed by this type of stuff, so I read about it. But yeah, Asmodee's been suitcased. We'll see what happens. Probably bad stuff, but the games aren't going to go anywhere. The IPs themselves,
they're worth money.
Someone will buy them. Those games will get produced. The problem here is people have jobs, and a lot of those people might lose their jobs, and that's terrible.
which is funny. I mean, not funny, I guess, painfully ironic that because Asmodee, at least initially, was its own little company, and then started to eat up other smaller companies, and a lot of people lost their jobs and lost their companies, and they kind of stripped out just, I guess, the big money makers, and then now that's being happened to them, which is, I mean, I don't know what a history lesson, because Asmodee did a lot of things to the industry. They were
Yeah.
big, and when they did their pricings with their online catalogs and things like that, that shook everybody else.
Yeah.
And I guess in a game of acquire, right, the board game acquire, right, you want to be acquired, right? That's how you win.
Right.
That you get purchased and repurchased and sold and all that kind of stuff. It's terribly disruptive for all of us as gamers out there. And now the licenses will be cast to the wind a little bit, and we'll see who picks them up and who produces and which ones just get left behind, because there will be stuff left behind, and like you said, a lot of employees in those companies too, because we know a lot of those, we've dealt with a lot of those people in Asmodee, and they were one of, if not the biggest employer in tabletop gaming. I mean, other than
Yeah.
maybe Wizards of the Coast.
Right.
So
yeah, it's depressing and infuriating at the same time, because we just keep seeing this over and over again.
it's
This is how finance functions. This is how capitalism functions now. And the only way to stop it is if we as a people somehow do something about that, whether through policy or action on our part. But they make a lot of money. They buy up assets, they
yeah.
strip out anything of value, they dump all their debt into it, and they let it sink. And that's happens over and over and over again. And everybody's like, this is terrible, but it just keeps happening.
Yeah, they did that
So
with
would that be called pump and dump then for something like this?
Kind of.
Yeah, because I guess like the company gets big enough, it starts buying up a bunch until it kind of overinflates, and then they go, well, okay, buy it up, drop the value, and kind of unload all the baggage onto it essentially.
Yeah. I mean, a pump and dump is more like, it's almost artificial in a sense. It's like, that's like what Elon Musk was almost doing with allegedly, cover our bases, with like crypto stocks. But it's effectively what it is, right? Like, you generate all this value in this asset, and then you strip out all the things that are most valuable, and then you let the rest of it just fall apart. And it's
And Asmodee also owns Board Game Arena now, don't they?
they do.
Ooh, that's
They-
something that a lot of people got used to using over COVID.
Yeah, and I don't know what happens to Board Game Arena, because before Asmodee bought it, that company was run by like 3 or 4 people from like
Yeah.
someone's basement. Like, I don't know. It wasn't a big company. They didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I don't know who would run that if Asmodee had to sell it off.
Yeah,
sure
and even if they keep all the licenses they have now with all the games.
Right. Yeah. Like, let's say a Hasbro buys them or something. Like, does that work? Can that work? You know?
And they also owned Miniature Market,
Right.
which is also
really?
one of the biggest online tabletop game sellers out there.
But they spun that off recently, didn't they?
I can't keep track. Did they? I don't know.
I feel like they dumped it. Like, there's new ownership as of like last month.
Well, it's not us, because we
Yeah.
weren't.
Oh, I think I did hear about that. It was like people who used to run Miniature Market, they ended up buying it back from Asmodee. And they were making big statements like, you're going to get your old deals that you used to. And they're making all these big grandiose promises when they started like reacquiring it.
Right. Yeah. And who knows if that's like Asmodee being like, this doesn't actually make us any money, or them just starting to shed things that are not assets.
I mean, a lot of times the phrase is thrown around like, you ruined my childhood. But, like you said about Toys R Us, KB Toys was also another company that was, stripped and left for parts. I think famously by Mitt Romney's company back in the day. And, once something seems like it has value, that's typically what happens.
Right.
So it's terribly unfortunate. Feel really bad for all those employees and everyone involved. And hopefully we don't lose those games, and hopefully they can find employment elsewhere, because they have some of the biggest assets, the biggest games of all time. And they, again, were responsible for this incredible shrinkage and price gouging. So I mean, this is good or not good? I don't,
It's bad because it's bad for society.
It's
Like
yeah.
maybe we save money at some point. Who knows? But people are going to lose their jobs, and it's just bad that it
No,
happens.
Yeah,
it's
because
it's
then
it's.
it'll just happen again.
Yeah.
I mean, right now there's a lot of people that are celebrating Goliath that they bought Lucky Duck Games.
Right.
And I've seen that online a lot. And people are like, oh, it's great. That's wonderful. Because again, Lucky Duck Games is a great tabletop company. And certainly they have more money now to do more things, but they've also been purchased.
Right. We all said the same thing about Days of Wonder. Like, oh, maybe they'll release more games now. And they released far fewer games after Asmodee bought them. Because Asmodee's like, go make more digital versions. That's your job now. Like, you run digital stuff. And eventually they started releasing more games again, but it's way less. It used to be like 1 a year, and now it's been like 4 or 5 in the last 10 years.
Yeah, that was like their staple thing, wasn't it? Like to release like one major title a year, and they would just like put a lot of time and development into it.
Yeah, and now the games are... Heat is amazing, but there are a couple games before that were like, meh.
Yeah.
It's true. And then the CEO of Goliath came out and said, as a global game business, we see there are two major growth areas in games: adult party games and strategy games. Now, here's the fun part: consumers and kid adults, one word.
What?
Kid adults?
Kidults. 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 We've heard this term before. We've talked about this before.
Right.
When the media came out after there was reports from the business industry that tabletop games, especially during COVID, was outselling toys and anything else in that market.
Right.
This is a report from Eric Martin from Board Game Geek. So people were not happy with being called a kidult.
No.
Obviously. People are very unhappy about that. And again, this, like everything else we talked about WizKids last week, this comes from a terrible, horrible, ignorant misunderstanding of the industry and the consumers. So, again, it's something that we constantly have thought about since the very beginning of the podcast. I know, Chris, the same thing for you, your organization, is trying to introduce tabletop gaming as an adult pastime, right? As a reasonable, helpful thing. And obviously, myself and Will, we've used it in therapeutic practices. Anthony, you've used it in university classrooms. It's terribly painfully sad that that's how you come out and that's how you frame things. And again, it doesn't bode well for Lucky Duck Games. I'm kind of sorry for them. I know that they're not. They have money now, but
right.
Yeah, but it's like oddly infantilizing to be like you're a child still. Like what?
Yeah,
that's true.
It's 55-year-old dudes in a boardroom being like, what are these kids? Oh, they're giving us money, so whatever.
Yeah. These kids still play Monopoly nowadays? Like...
All right. Well, that's all the ups and downs, mostly downs, all downs of the tabletop industry. So if you have not yet, get your 18XX outs and your economic Euro games to the table so that you can figure this out in the future and maybe be a high roller in this thing that we call tabletop gaming. All right, so that's everything that's going out there in the world. Let's talk about some fun stuff. Let's talk about the games that we want at the table. Let's talk about our acquisition disorders. All right, Anthony, what do you have up for us this week?
All right, I'm going to kick it off with a game that I don't really know anything about other than the fact that it exists, and I don't think it's going to work. So let's carry on the negativity. Woo!
But
how we roll.
But to be fair, it has an advantage.
It does, because it's...
See what I did there? See, I did a thing.
Yeah,
it's
guess what it's called? It's yeah. It's named Vantage.
Look, I'm holding on to whatever I can at this point. That was a very depressing news segment. I'm not. I'm really not happy about that. So
no.
Go ahead. It's fine. I don't care.
All right. Stonemaier Games announced their next game, coming out mid 2025. There's even a section on this blog post that's like, why are we announcing this a year early?
Yeah, why?
I don't really know that it's super clear why. They're just trying to build hype, I guess. So it's a new game. Stegmaier says he's been working on it for 7 years.
Wow.
That's a long time, right? And it is supposedly based on a lot of video games that he likes. So he
Oh.
mentions Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring and The Witcher 3, these big sprawling open fantasy worlds. Which, sure, yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild came out 7 years ago, so I could see him sitting down to play that and being like, I should make this a video game or a board game because that sounds cool in theory. Now, the problem with that is that is an immensely complicated system, and I'm not saying this won't work, but I'm like having a trouble envisioning how it could work because games have gotten very big and sprawling. There's adventure games, especially. They are enormous. There's dozens of modules, hundreds of hours attached to them, big honky rule books, and the people who love them, but they become impenetrable.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing about Stonemaier games is that they have historically not been impenetrable. Like whether you like them or not, they're relatively easy to pick up and learn. So the thing here that I'm not sure about, because he's talking about the game is going to have an entire planet that you get to explore. It's a roguelike in a board game, which if you're not familiar with what a roguelike is, it's a video game genre in which you run through a scenario and it's like randomly generated, or maybe not even randomly generated, but you run through it until you die and then you reset and you try it again. And some of those roguelikes will give you like power-ups that make you more powerful each time you run through it. But the idea is that you just keep going and trying to like progress and learn the system and build it up, right? They end up being very large and very long a lot of the times. So this game has 800 interconnected locations on cards and 900 other discoverable cards.
Nobody will ever get through that content.
No, it's
ever.
1,700 cards. And it's not a campaign game. It's self-contained. It's just stuff's going to come out as you explore.
I think somebody is a little jelly about Gloomhaven. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
Somebody wants their own Gloomhaven here.
But you know what it is? It's like Gloomhaven, but if you put like the amount of bloat that like Marvel United has, where it's like it's just so much stuff that you'll never actually be able to get through all of it. Because 900 discoverable cards.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's like I don't even know. And the thing about this that I'm worried about is Stonemaier games are infamous for launching mildly broken, right?
Yes.
You'll get a game, it's fine. You're like, I can see how this is good. And then you play it like 5 times, you're like, oh, it's actually broken, super broken if you do this, or this faction's bad, or this system doesn't work. And then they find that out, and to their credit, they fix it, and they do erratas, and sometimes they release expansions that fix it. Sometimes they release the second edition. Like Viticulture took 2 or 3 iterations. The essential edition we have now is very good, but the first version was not as good. How do you do that with this game, which I am assuming will cost a lot of money? like 1,700 cards, potentially miniatures and stuff on the board. Like it's going to be $150 game.
Well, they're going to have custom dice, no miniatures.
Okay.
At least not yet, or at least there might be a deluxe version of it.
Right.
So we'll see how far that goes.
It looks like you could already buy metal coins.
Yeah.
They're pre-selling the metal coins. Which, why?
I mean, it's almost as if like they want to do like Kickstarter crowdfunding, but they don't want to be on Kickstarter. So they're like, let's just like build this hype now, pre-order it now, a year in advance. It's as if you Kickstarted it then, if that's the case. Like
it also seems weirdly like one of their other infamous or famous games, depending on how you talk about it, their Euro game that was a legacy game, Anthony. You remember that game that shall not be named?
Yeah. No, and he even mentions Charterstone in
No, it's not supposed to be named.
I named it. I'm doing it.
There was one
for the
rule.
listener. It's for the listeners. They gotta know what we're talking about.
No, it's bad. No, don't do it. I want to go back. There's a candle and there's kings eating people's souls. No, I don't. No, stop.
No spoilers. Who cares?
That's bad.
I don't know, man. And the whole vibe around it right now is everybody's been like, this has never been done before. It's never been done. Nobody's done this. Nobody's made a roguelike as a board game. And it's like, A, yes, they have. B, that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, it still needs to be done well. You don't know if it's done well. We haven't played it yet.
But you have games that have tried to copy like the Breath of the Wild kind of feel, and that's pretty much what Sleeping Gods was.
Right.
It's like, here's this big world, open ended.
Yeah.
There's like the big mission is you'll find it eventually. Go to the four corners of the earth and get your goal. Like, I feel like it just seems to be like that's what he wants to do. He wants to mix a weird like Breath of the Wild, but also, what does it say here? View your location from a first person perspective. Like, he wants to use like video game terms here and there for it.
I mean, when Seven Citadel came out on Kickstarter, or all the versions of Seven Citadel, it's so damn impressive when you see these box of cards with all these different missions and all these different pieces of the map and how everything lays out and runs out. And I could see why he wants to do this. It's an admirable quest to try to put something like this together. But as you mentioned, Anthony, it does not seem like he has, unfortunately, the large enough crew to actually playtest this stuff to the point where it's playable. And then I think a lot of times, too, a lot of these things, when they do have almost infinite amount of cards and components and things like that, they're certainly not being playtested.
It can't be.
Can't.
No, it's 800 locations, 900 cards, and 6,000 actions. 6,000 different actions.
I'm glad this isn't our acquisition disorder category.
And you know what it is? It's cooperative, so you can get away with things being imbalanced a little bit because you're working together and the game works or doesn't. It's fine. It's broken, whatever. But that doesn't necessarily translate to fun. So I guess we'll see if it's fun. It is in my acquisition disorder, though, because I'm fascinated by this, and I do want to see, not if it works, because I don't feel like it will 100% work, but how it works. Like, is it broken in an interesting way, or is it just broken? Which I know sounds cynical, and maybe it'll be a lot of fun. I don't know. I've played a lot of games that are broken that are fun. It's fine.
Well,
but
I think the problem is with a lot of game designers, because they do have, even if it's not a large play group, they have somewhat of a super dedicated play group. And I think a lot of these games play well. And we were talking about this before we came on with Chris about certain games that came out recently, is they play well with a certain dedicated group that you can play with at all times, all places, and have the same skill level. And I don't think in the real world that's ever really a thing, or rarely a thing. So I think that's the real world tested situation becomes where everything starts falling apart.
Yep. Who knows? We got a year to speculate. That's Vantage. They say mid-2025, so we'll come back in about a year and let you know what we think about the game once the videos are up.
We'll never be able to finish that review. It'll be just like, well, that's the first 400 cards. We're going to get back to you about the second 400 cards.
Review day 437 Starlog.
I want to stop playing the game. Nope, we're not done reviewing it. Got to play all the cards. Go.
You won't be able to even go through all 6,000 actions.
That's crazy. All right. Well, Chris, what do you have up for this? Hopefully something more plausible.
Yeah.
I got Slay the Spire, the board game. So this is a game that I think is just getting to people right now. That I wish I had backed. So this is a roguelike game, like you were saying before, where you're gonna kind of keep going through the gauntlet. You'll die, you'll get some upgrades, and then you kind of come back, you try again. They made the video game Slay the Spire into this cool co-op deck building game, which was really cool because Slay the Spire, the video game, was already really heavily based on board games. So it's cool to see like the loop come full circle, and now you actually get the board game of video game based on a board game. But one thing I was really interested in is to see like how they kind of got a lot of the mechanics from the video game to work, because just like how you have like Hearthstone and like the Marvel mobile card game, and you have so many card games where like they kind of use the fact that it's digital to their advantage, and things like enemy AI and stuff like that, like how they kind of translated it over. And I thought it was a little odd that they decided to do it by die, So you just roll a die, and depending on where it lands, it's going to determine some enemies' actions. Whereas other enemies kind of have like pre-programmed actions that they'll kind of just go through. Like attack one will be this, attack two will be that, attack three will be it'll kind of just keep cycling through. And I think it's a pretty cool mix because in the video game you always got to see what the enemy was going to do, and then the idea was you plan your turn reacting to it, and then try and see if you can kind of go through all 3 or 4 acts. And I kind of looked through the rule book, and it seems like they really did a good job at getting all the like mechanics from that video game over. Even to the point where like they something that I've always found weird they add in board games was like the achievement sheet. And in this one, where you have an achievement sheet where you actually start to unlock things for your character. And I guess that's how they decided to do like the roguelike version of this, where it's like if you want to complete these like mini achievements, you'll come back next game stronger. Open up envelope X, take cards, add them to your deck permanently. Or did you do this achievement fighting enemies? Well, open up this packet, and now you can get a whole new set of harder bosses, more difficult attacks, and higher health. And the health seems to be absolutely absurd for certain enemies. I saw one that went up to like past 200 HP, and most cards are only dealing like 3 or 4 damage a piece.
Hmm.
So it's cool where like that battle of attrition that you got from like the card game in the video game, you kind of get now in a card game, in a board game.
It's like Street Fighter, the movie, the video game.
Exactly. But yeah, this is one like this came out the same. This was like on Kickstarter the same time that Dead Cells was on, more or less.
Mm.
And I was a huge fan of both of those games. I ended up backing Dead Cells, but now seeing Slay the Spire, I'm like, oh no, did I make the wrong choice? Like,
Yeah, I actually went in and late backed this, like maybe a couple months ago.
yeah,
Because some of the early preview, because when it was up originally, I was like, I don't see how this works.
yeah.
Feels like it's going to be sprawling and maybe too much to keep track of. But like seeing some early previews and how they kind of manage that and turn
Hmm.
it into a co-op, I'm like, that's actually really cool. And I love this game, and I've put like 100 hours into it on Steam.
Yeah.
So, um,
So one thing I'm really liking about this, and it seems like Dead Cells is kind of doing the same thing. It's this like they're minimizing dungeon crawling, which I really like. Because like I have like it was like the Bloodborne the board game, right? It's like
mhm.
huge, 10 box CMON game, and you have these tiles that eat up an entire table. And to get the space and the time to play something like that, it's really hard. As much as I really like playing that game, it's really hard to get it to the table. But then you have like Slay the Spire and Dead Cells, where it's like the dungeon is more of this like just like a grid you kind of move along, and then the fun part, which ends up being the combat, is kind of what you interact with more. So instead of like taking up like 80% of your table to take the walking action, it now most of your table is going to be there for the combat, the interesting things, the strategizing part of it, which I'm kind of liking that version of dungeon crawling a lot more now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's too much. I remember playing Bloodborne, the board game, but really any of those,
Yeah.
it started for me with Gloomhaven, where I was like, I like this a lot, but the amount of time it takes to set up and to manage it and keep track of what I was doing, and like, and it came down to like, I just need to leave it set up for a week or two, and then I'm not playing anything else. And for some people, that's great, but I want to play other stuff. But
And then
then
I
the
do that, and I can't even eat dinner at my table anymore.
right, yeah, yeah.
But
I have a
yeah,
Lacerda game set in my basement right now, and I'm like, the cats are gonna break everything. So
you have to take a picture of it before you leave the room, just in
right,
case.
yeah. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right. Well, for my acquisition disorder, I have two this week. First off, I have the 2025 board game Mosaic calendar, a beautifully crafted, fun calendar for board game enthusiasts, featuring 13 handmade mosaics created entirely with board game pieces. This was something that we had posted online. This is from our friend Katia. She was nice enough to give us one of her designs from last year's calendar for our academic journal. So if you've been over to Board Game Academics, you will see this wondrous fox kind of crafted together from one of Anthony's favorite games, of all time, or recently, right? I think at least Cascadia.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
So if you have not seen her calendars, you really should. It's not just, hey, that's a pretty picture. You took a nice photo of a thing. It is seemingly like an endless number of board game pieces that are put together to produce these wonderful depictions of different board games out there. It's very unique and it's actually very functional because she also puts in monthly challenges. She puts in a 10 by 10 on there. And there's also opportunities to put these beautiful pictures on your phone and bookmarks and a lot of other cool stuff. So please check out her page. It's really a lot of fun. I own the calendar. I purchased the calendar uh, way before we had spoken with her. So it's not a paid kind of support, but it is definitely something you should be checking out. Next up, I have Earth Abundance Expansion. Everyone loves Earth. It's a wonderful place. Earth Day just recently passed. Take care of Mother Earth. But it's also a board game. And it's a board game we mostly played. Anthony, I know if you played it. Chris, have you played Earth?
I actually just got one in Math Trade.
Oh!
And, I've been loving it, yeah.
Nice.
So if you don't know about Earth, you should. You live there. But nonetheless, I know I'm on fire today. Just like Asmodee. So, tough crowd here.
Now you are on fire. Yeah.
it's a BGG Hotness, man. So basically, you are creating a tableau of all the different wonderful life that inhabits Earth. That's not people. So all the plants, animals, and everything else there, coupled with all the different environmental concerns. And based on how you place the cards on the tableau, they cycle and spawn off each other, allow you to produce more dirt, more seeds, and other things like that. A lot of people love it. It's kind of reminiscent of Terraforming Mars, or at least that's what most people say. It's a little fiddly. Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff on your board, so there is a lot to kind of manage and kind of, play with. But they came out with an expansion because good game, therefore expansion. So people love this game. I'm a fan of this game. Not super love. Anthony, you're a fan, right? Just like general fan
of Earth.
Yes.
It's fine.
There you go.
It's a play. It's a good game. If the other games that it's based on didn't exist, I'd like it more.
Sure. So maybe this will convince you. So if you're, again, this is Earth, but now the expansion, which is also on Kickstarter, just like the calendar here, basically what you're going to get is new interactions between the players. So when you play Earth, you basically play your tableau, and then you try to, chase after the public goals, because there's a lot of really powerful public goals. And that's it, as far as like the player interaction. Now there's going to be cards that are actually going to let you interact with other players, and based upon what they do, your cards are going to be able to do things. And then again, there's going to be additional resources and activities that are going to allow you to do new things. So one of the new resources is seeds. And seeds are going to allow you to do a number of different things. Basically, they're a wild resource. So you can transform them into sprouts, soil, growth, or compost. Basically, do whatever you need to do. So they're making the game a little bit easier as far as that's concerned. And they're also allowing you to germinate. So if you've ever played Earth, you know that you're going to have a tremendous hand of cards, and you're going to be cycling through that hand of cards a lot and getting new cards into your hands. Now this allows you to go through basically the cards that have been discarded, the dirt pile, and pick out cards that really work well for your tableau or scores you a lot of points. That might also help, when you get stuck as far as like not having the right kind of card combination. Also, there's going to be new opportunities for what they call nurture sprouts. These are sprouts that you're going to be able to hold on your board. So if your plants can't hold them, you're going to be able to, hold them and grow them on your board and place them on the cards for later. So again, another opportunity to make things easier. And finally, the thing that I think will certainly make Anthony back this game and the expansion is there's now a 6-player. You can play with 6 players, Anthony. It's not the dreaded 5. It's 6.
Oh my gosh. Let's make the game longer. That's fun. I like it longer. More options, more flexibility, longer. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what the game needed.
The only good side to that is it is simultaneously play for most of it. Although this expansion will mean that you now do have to take a look at other people's boards because what they do actually affects you. In addition to all that, of course, because it's Kickstarter, there's a deluxe components.
Of course.
So now your thing that looks like a weird crayon/mushroom thing now actually looks like trees and toadstools. So deluxe upgrades? That's a thing. That's a thing now. So you can go onto Kickstarter and back the game, back the expansion. The expansion is going to cost about $29 US. And then again, there's a lot of good information on the campaign to check it out to see if it's for you. If you don't have a game where you terraform a place, this might be the place that you want to terraform because it's Earth. And Earth, the Abundance Expansion. Yay! That's a thing, Anthony.
It exists!
Well, soon. Soon it exists.
In a year.
In a year.
In as much as I care, it exists, it doesn't matter.
All right, so that's everything that's we want at the table. Let's talk about the games that did hit the table this week. We'll let you know if those games are a buy and you should run out and pick those games up. If those games are a play and you should avoid them at all costs. If those games are a dodge and you should avoid them. Or if those games are dreaded burn and it's just Anthony with his old copy of Earth because, it's not. He's not going to recycle it. Let's be fair. It's just not going to happen. So,
I would recycle.
Would you?
I would recycle
for Earth?
I sold that game,
okay.
So I recycled it and I got paid for it. So
oh, okay.
So you got green from Earth.
Yeah.
There you go. Nice. All right. Well, Chris, what do you have up for us this week?
So my copy of Trailblazers and the Sasquatch expansion came in today. This week. And my wife and I have been playing it. We've been pretty much trying to get to the table pretty often right now. I thought I would like it, but I absolutely love it.
Whoa.
It's fast. It does not take up a lot of space, time, and it gives me the right kind of puzzling that I like. What you're pretty much doing is you get a hand of 8 cards, and you're playing out routes, trying to make routes that loop back to the same camp. So if you have a kayaking camp, you want the river to leave the camp, and you need to somehow get it connected back. And the longer you make the route, the more points you get. And then on the first 3 rounds, you're going to keep adding a new kind of camp and a new kind of trail that you're going to keep trying to connect. And then at the end of the 4th round, you score all of your trails that looped all the way around. There's a couple of public goals that you're going to be competing for. And that's it. You're playing 2 cards a turn with 8 hands that you kind of draft around. And it goes really quickly. We're able to kind of get a whole game done with the 2 of us in about 20 minutes. And the Sasquatch expansion we haven't touched yet, but it comes with a little Sasquatch meeple that looks like a Brillo pad. They gave it this weird funky texture, which I absolutely love. But it also makes the game co-op, which we're really interested to try out.
It kind of reminds me of Sprawlopolis as far as just trails and tracks.
Yeah.
Because you're adding cards to make you make this enormous kind of pathway in order to score points.
Yeah, and what's cool is you get to if you want, you can layer cards over other cards. So if you only want the top half of a specific card and you want to transform the bottom half later on, you can just layer on top of it. And you get to really get some cool trail puzzling action into it. What I really liked about it was also the cards are all PVC cards. So they give you a little carabiner in a case so you can carry the game so you can play anywhere.
Nice.
And with those PVC cards, you just shuffle them up, throw them around. They get scuffed up. Doesn't matter. They're practically indestructible.
So not maybe the most environmentally friendly, but it will play on the trail.
It will play on the trail.
So this could be a nice park game, so to speak.
Yeah, you're on the lazy river. You want to bust out. You want to bust the game out, just have it float along with you, and the PVC cards can do that for you.
I guess as long as it's not a strong breeze, because then you would need a lot of rocks to hold that down.
Yes. Oh, actually, so the version I got was the deluxe one, which comes with an insane amount of animal meeples. It gives you a few modules to add into it, but you can put the little animal meeples onto your trails, and they'll weigh the cards down for you.
So they did think of everything. Great. And it's like 300. I'm looking here, 339 cards. That's a lot of cards.
Yeah, so it's a lot of cards, but you end up not going through most of them because it's so many cards you could go up to 8 players.
Nice.
So if you're playing with 1 to 4, you use one deck, and then they give you a separate deck that's a different color. And then if you're playing with 5 to 8, you add that second deck into it.
All right, Chris. So is it a buy, a play, a dodge? Clearly
Oh,
not a burn.
I would say buy for sure. I'm not sure about the Sasquatch expansion just yet, but for the base game, even if you don't get the deluxe one, you just get the regular base game, I would still say buy.
Excellent. All right. Well, I got a also light game to the table that I've played a couple of times, and the reason why I brought this older game back to the table is because it's going to be getting a new release. I think they said in the second or third quarter of 2024. I think it's supposed to be second quarter, but I don't know. At this point, we haven't seen it. This is Expeditions Around the World. Now, I remember sitting at the table and playing this for the very first time, and I was like, "Hey, this is a really old game, or at least it looks like a really old game." But they have brought this back out again and again because it's a Wolfgang Kramer game, and basically the game is all about exploring the planet. I guess this has become a very Earth themed episode, so to speak, but we're exploring the planet. And there's multiple versions of this game, and basically you're looking at a map of the world, and then you all have the same centered starting location, and then you're given destination cards. You have public destination cards, which if you reach them, you will score points. You also have private destination cards. They will score you more points, of course. And basically, there are 3 expeditions that are going out: red, yellow, and blue. These arrows, and you have to kind of understand it as like shared expeditions. So you are all utilizing these 3 different color arrows to travel around the world and visit all these different locations. But of course, you want to go to your locations, and they want to go to their locations. So there's a lot of constant like back and forth of like rearranging the arrows or redirecting them to kind of get to whatever location you want. As you're placing the arrows, there are spots on the board that will give you an additional turn, or there's spots on the board that will give you additional tickets. Tickets in the game gives you a special ability. It lets you pull up an arrow so you can place it down later, place an additional arrow, or cycle through some of your expedition cards so that you can get better cards in your hand. But basically, you're trying to locate these particular locations that are on your hand, and you place some tokens at the beginning to show the rest of the table what you're going for, and that will score you additional points. This game is on the lighter side, but it's very fun and dynamic because you have to think in advance as far as like, where does everyone else need to go based upon the tokens they place out there, and what information can I give the table about where I'm going, but hopefully direct them in such a way that I'm able to hit my secret locations at the same time. This game has had multiple iterations. It's been on Kickstarter a bunch of times. It's a Wolfgang Kramer game. And Hatchet Board Games USA will be bringing out quarter 2, 2004. And it's fairly inexpensive, looking about $35 MSRP. And I'm going to say it's a solid play.
Great. It looks pretty.
Yeah. When you first started with Expeditions, I thought you meant like the Scythe sequel, and I was like, that is not an old game.
No. I really want someone else to review that on here because I loathed it, but I kind of want to get someone else's perspective.
I've played it, and oof.
All right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there you go, everybody. No changes to that review.
And not only should also mention, not only is Expeditions coming out reinnovated, redesigned, it's also on Board Game Geek to get that information. But Board Game Arena now has a digital version of it. So if you want to play it, you can play for free on Board Game Arena and check it out. It's a little hard to see because there's so many locations on that board. So I don't know if I recommend it as playing just that version of it. I think the board in front of you is much better. But again, play on Board Game Arena, check it out. More information on Board Game Geek. Like I said, it goes back 10, 14 years. and then check out if you want to pick out the actual copy of it. All right, so
I'm looking at now. It's expeditions around the world.
Mm-hmm. It's had many different names, but yes.
Yeah. Man, from 1996.
I know.
Wow.
Many
It's
different
nice to see an
versions.
old game come back.
It's true. All right, so that's everything we want to hit the table. Now on to our feature review. So our feature review this week, of course, is the latest, the greatest, the hottest on the table. It's Board Game Geek's The Hotness. Anthony, what do we have up this month?
Alrighty, folks. We do this once every month or two or whenever, where we're going to run through the top 50 games in the Board Game Geek Hotness. These are the games that Board Game Geek is telling us are hot based on presumably almost exclusively how many people are looking at that entry on Board Game Geek. So the game we play here is I tell you why it's on the list, or we guess wildly because we don't know.
I think both are justified.
I think so too.
And then sometimes it's just there because it's a thing.
Right. Yeah, sometimes there's no good reason. It's just collectively everybody decided that was interesting, or collectively nobody's looking at anything else, so this random game rises up.
Speaking of which, Anthony, number 50.
Number 50. Number 50, I know why it's here. It's because people are looking at Stegmaier and Stonemaier games. Expeditions, the other Expeditions, is number 50 this month. That's almost certainly the only reason why, because this exceptionally mediocre game, I don't know why it would be in the zeitgeist at all right now, except that, he just announced a new game.
Well, we've obviously just talked about it. That's why it just showed up there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's burned up the chart. We've heard it talk. I have not played it. So as far as I know, it's the greatest game that's ever been produced. So
it is a game.
It is
a game.
There you go.
I would say, like Anthony said, it's aggressively mediocre. It does a lot of mechanics, and some of them are
Some of them are meh.
Yeah.
You're right.
I feel like there's nothing in the game that made me go yeah, that's why I'm playing this. It was just a lot of very average actions I took. A lot of the art was nice. I got the Ironclad edition. I got really suckered into it because of this whole scythe theme, and those were nice. And then after a game or so, I was like, if I wanted to meld cards, I'd play Innovation.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We don't have to get into all that because that game is whatever. But it's funny that it's up here because I'm glad you're with me, Chris.
Yeah.
I just like this.
I still think it's the greatest game ever produced, but I have not played it yet, so I can't say.
Yeah. Just keep caveating that. It's great.
There you go.
All right. 49 is Everdell. Why is it here? Who knows? Everdell.
It's adorable. That's why.
It's cute. Yeah. Nothing new that I'm aware of.
Yeah, who doesn't love cute animals?
Yeah. ISS Vanguard at 48. I think this one always floats around the bottom of the 50. It's just a big, expensive Awakened Realms game, so people be loving that. And there's new campaigns just launched, I think, on the app.
Okay.
Gizmos jumped onto the list at 47. I can't see why, so let's guess wildly. Gizmos, Phil Walker Harding's little puzzle game from Simon from 6 years ago.
Did he come out with anything new?
I don't know. Maybe it's on Board Game Arena, but I feel like it was already on.
It was already on Board Game Arena. I mean, it came after Potion Explosion, and it was just kind of well known because it had the marbles in it, and it was also a decent game, but it almost had no thematics to it. It was just basically iconography at the table. So. Yeah, I'm going to say because the marble market has exploded.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
They
not in a bad way.
It's yes. So hopefully Asmodee can get them their hands on some marbles and make it through this tough time.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? It's a decent game. I like Phil Walker Harding. He's a good designer.
Yeah.
Marvel Champions, the card game, jumping up on the list a little bit. It's always on here. These LCGs are always on here. I don't believe anything new is coming yet, but the new Apocalypse set just came out last month.
It's almost like X-Men 97 is the best thing Marvel's produced in 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that's pumping everything Marvel upwards right now.
That's a good call, yeah, because it is legit just X-Men, right? That's
Yeah,
There you go.
Age of Apocalypse. Yeah,
I mean,
on my
they
desk.
have to be working on a new X-Men set for Marvel Champions.
They said this is the last one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know why, but they said this is the last one. They're moving on. This is the third full set for X-Men. Now,
But I feel like they've been just like printing money with Marvel Champions.
I know. Yeah. I mean, there'll be something else Marvel coming. I would guess like Fantastic Four is probably next. With
True.
the new movie coming in a year or two. But we'll see. 45, Dune War for Arrakis. This has been steadily on the list for weeks with the movie. Still haven't had a chance to play it. We've tried. But it's coming.
And the Dune movie was just recently out, which is also awesome. We would definitely recommend that. Chris,
right, and it's on streaming as of last week. It's on the Blu-ray comes out in a couple more weeks. Nice. So yeah, everybody's watching it. Next up, we have a guest of Robin Hood. This is a new GMT game.
Whoa!
I'm very excited about this. I love Robin Hood games, and it's a coin system game based on Robin Hood. So you have the outlaws of the forest against the sheriff of Nottingham in a coin game. Cool.
If you did not tell me this was a GMT game, I would never have guessed because it has so much color on the cover.
They've made a concerted effort to overhaul how they do their covers, and
that's good.
I'm digging it. Yeah.
Now they need to work on their board because it is very sepia.
Board is bad. Cover great.
Yeah, they're getting there. They're getting there.
Yeah. One thing at a time. I think I have this pre-ordered. I'm really excited about it. It looks great.
And this is also a coin game from GMT. Again, if you know GMT, that has a how to play from Rodney. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Those things don't work together.
Yeah. Well, I feel like they think this might be the one that gets mainstream.
I hope so.
It's 2-player only. There's only 2 factions. It's supposed to take an hour and a half. Like it's GMT, but it's supposed to be more accessible.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's true.
This is the GMT family game.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's still a 3.5 weight, and it takes 3 hours or 2 hours, but you know. All right. 43 is Expeditions Around the World. Chris, you just talked about this.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. I like the new cover. 41 is this game that I keep seeing pop up called Agemonia. I don't know what it is. It's like a big open sprawling story cooperative run around in a box type thing, but not like Vantage, because that's one of a kind.
It's never been done before.
It's never been done before. I've heard a lot of people say good things, but the cover is ridiculous and bad.
Oh, it's one of the worst.
Yeah. Castles of Burgundy's up here because the re-release of the special edition is up on GameFound right now. So if you want that big box, you can get it again at the other prices. They did not add anything to the campaign. Thank you.
Oh,
yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I actually went the first day. I backed it for $1. Just be like, is there anything new? No. Cool. Take my $1 back now.
I'm so happy. I was like, I don't want to get more stuff, and they didn't put it up. So I was like, cool. I don't have to get more stuff.
That's a little gold star for Awakened Realms for me.
Yes. Yeah. It's like just a reprint for all the people who couldn't get it. Great. Thanks, guys. 39, Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm sure there's some new set coming.
I feel like this has not left the top 50 list since when it came out 2016. Yeah, since 2016. I feel like it's never left the top 50 list.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be monthly new content. Now it's every 3 months, but it's still big boxes of lots of stuff. Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy at 38. Maybe those expansions they were working on finally shipped. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe the Eclipse itself.
Oh,
people.
That would be such a weird spike in sales if people just kept searching Eclipse board games and that popped up.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Actually, it might be both, because the 2 hot threads for this game are Eclipse photos during April 8th Eclipse, people holding up the game in front of the Eclipse, and expansion arrived from 10 days ago.
Yeah. So, okay. That's pretty cool. That if that's the reason it's on there, I applaud.
Yeah. That's great. All right, moving up the list then, but that's a good one. 37, Lost Ruins of Arnak. I'm not aware of anything new for this game. I would be aware because I love this game. So
it's a good game.
I still haven't played it.
Ooh,
come on, so good.
No, you and Aaron would love that game.
Yeah,
it has a really great 2-player module expansion that you could play.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, it's graded too. Yeah, definitely check that out. 36 is Age of Innovation, the new-ish version of Terra Mystica. Very good, and nominated for a bunch of awards, so just kind of hovering up here consistently. And I will say some of these numbers might just be skewed by the Board Game Geek nominations, which were just announced a couple days ago.
It's true.
So, Nucleum at 35. It's been on the top for a while, but the new expansion is shipping, so that's coming.
I feel
very
like this
soon.
game just came out, but it's already been a year. It's crazy.
Nucleum, yeah, I know it's. I mean, it was like Essen, so it's
Oh, okay.
8-9 months, but
Still.
there's already an expansion for it, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They had it ready to go, I think.
It's the Australia one.
Yeah. Mine's in the mail. It should be here on Sunday.
Ooh.
I'm excited.
Ooh.
I know. I'm excited for that.
Does it kill brass?
Nucleum?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's more than It's more than brass. Brass is like
Brass is a thing.
tight.
Yeah.
It's not a point game. It's like you're just trying to generate cash. So it's like more focused. This is a little more sprawling.
Yeah.
It's a different vibe.
Yeah, it's its own thing.
34 and 33, we got Wingspan and Root. They're always up here doing their thing. 32 is Wonderland's War, which it's been hot for a while. I don't think. Have any of us played this?
I have not.
No.
I've seen it at the table, but I have not gotten a chance to play it yet.
Yeah.
It's colorful. It's bright. It's Alice in Wonderland, so.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
eye candy. It's got a great theme.
Cool artwork, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard good things, but yeah, I haven't played it. Earthborn Rangers at 31. This is on GameFound. Kind of the reprint was up there, so it's been up in the hotness for a while. 30 is Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. This was nominated for a bunch of awards, so I think this might be part of that. And they have a big campaign. I've gotten like 3 emails from the publisher being like, vote for us for all the awards. So people are probably doing that. Castles of Burgundy Special Edition at 29. Again, it's up on GameFound right now, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Orleans at 28.
Got a
That's
guess
a
is
weird
he-
one.
No,
Yeah, I don't know.
they got a. It was just recently announced. They're getting a fancy reprint anniversary edition
Oh,
Cool.
with everything in
Oh.
the kitchen sink kind of thrown in there, and it's give or take about $190 US.
Ah,
jeez.
Yeah.
Do not care.
It's
Mountains.
super.
Wow.
I saw this pop up. It's in Europe. It's not over here in the US yet, but it's got all the fancy things. It's got all the fancy things. Like they were like, can we just do a deluxe version of this and charge all the money? Because, Tasty Minstrel's game went bye-bye. So somebody picked this up and said, throw more pieces in it, throw a big price tag on it, and it's here. So
Hey, it worked for Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah,
it's true. It's
true.
Orleans is
Yeah,
a great
that's true.
game too.
Yeah, we mock it, but I did pay $200 for Castle of Burgundy. So
Oh, I paid for it, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
That was like, I could never get the old version to the table because of how bland it looked. And now I'm like, Castles of Burgundy? Yeah, sure, great, perfect.
yeah, I get to play my game. Yay.
Yes. With the new clickety clackities.
Yeah, clickety. Good stuff. All right, 27, Voidfall. Big guy here, the David Turchi game from Mind Clash. My game of the year last year. I don't know why it's up here, but I'm happy that it is. 26 is The White Castle. Again, up for a bunch of awards. It actually won the American Tabletop Award just a couple weeks ago for heavier games. So the American equivalent of the Kennerspiel, which is not surprising to me. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. It was very middling for me when I played it.
Would you label it as a heavy game?
No, but for like those mass awards, it kind of falls into that bucket.
Okay.
It's like a 3-way. It's definitely medium, but like you look at the Kennerspiel Awards and they're often like this weight. So I think the Americans are copying. Like heavy to a family.
Okay.
All right, 25, Terraforming Mars. 24, Spirit Island. We got a lot of the usual players here. 23 is Sky Team, the 2-player co-op real-time land-a-plane game, which looks really cool, but would stress me out, and I will never play this.
No, don't do that to yourself. It's so good. It's
With the right person.
I put this as my co-op game for the year for the Golden Geeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is so good. If I would say Sky Team loud enough, my wife would just run in with her copy and just be like, "Yeah," and just start setting it up.
Oh man. Well, okay. Well, now I have to try it.
The one weird thing about the game is that they make you like set up the dual layer boards that make the game up. Like they give you the stickers to like fold the boards in to make it yourself, which I thought was such a weird thing. But I was like, it was fun to like see it kind of come together.
Right. Someone else did that recently. It was some Alexander Pfister game. I had to like tape up the boards before I could play the game. Weird. All right. Well, maybe I'll put it back on the list to check out. I haven't actually played it, so I can't say anything about it otherwise. But just looked like it would stress me out.
Well, it's not real time for the most part.
Okay.
Yeah, it's when you get to like the harder like stages of it, a couple of them will be real time, but for the most part, you're just rolling dice and you're just trying to like suss out like where's the right place for you to put them. But like most co-op games nowadays, like limited communication, you can't tell the other person.
Right.
I love the limited communication co-op game where you're like in a room next to a person and you're like, don't talk to them, don't look at them, don't
give them any signs, nothing.
Just
stop breathing. They hurt your breathing.
I did my co-op module in my class last week, and 3 of the games were limited communication. And so the one group was playing Hanabi, and I went over. I'm like, do you all know what you're doing? And they're like, yeah, no, we're good. We know the rules. I'm like, okay, good. And I came back like 20 minutes later, working with the other groups because like somebody was playing Pandemic, so they needed a lot of help. And I came over. I'm like, oh, how'd you do? The game was over. They're like, oh, we got 21. Like, you scored 21 on your first time playing the game. I was like, okay, how did you do? Like, what did you tell each other? And they're like, well, we followed the rules. We didn't really communicate. And then one person's like rolling their eyes as the other person says that.
Great.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave this be. I'll read your journals at the end of the week.
I want a co-op game with excessive communication. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. Just all talk all the time.
Yes.
All right. Dragon Bond, Lords of Vala is 22. Does anybody know what this is other than
never
probably
even heard of this game?
Big box of plastic on Kickstarter, maybe?
It's Dragon miniatures on a board. You got like
okay, Dragon miniatures.
It's a big box of plastic on a Kickstarter. Yep, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, come on, people like dragons.
Yeah,
and they like boards. So
yeah. Well, the next game has a board and dragons. Wordspan.
Oh,
21. Decent game. I like it.
I just find it funny to see Wingspan and Wormspan on this list.
Right.
Like both of them are doing well enough that they can both be on here.
Yeah. Give us the Spaniverse. Next up, we have 20, Dune Imperium, which, of course, this game's been up here anyways, but the movie, I'm sure, pushes it up higher.
Sure.
Earth Abundance at 19. Chrissy just talked about this. 6 players is insane. You're crazy. Get out of here. No.
Ironically, like the expansion is there to now, for the first time, more or less, create interaction. And it's also the expansion that brings a 6 player, which so there.
Well, one thing I do like is the card search that they're adding.
Yes,
because I really liked it when they added that to Race for the Galaxy. I feel like it helped smooth out a lot of like trying to get combos in your tableau going. And so for them to be able to let you like search through your dirt deck, which is a weird sentence to say, but to find like those like key cards, I think is a pretty cool way to kind of like fix the game that has like just like the problem of like big deck, find what you need, who knows where it is.
The only problem with that is, and again, this happens with a lot of games, giant deck that you now need to go through.
No, but that's the thing. You're not looking through the giant deck. You're looking through your compost deck.
Well,
and so
have you seen have you seen my compost, lady? It's big, man. It's a lot of compost.
Okay. Well, we can stop talking about your compost. Let's get on
That's right.
More Dune Imperium Uprising in 18.
Wow.
So I guess the newer version is still hotter than the older version. Although I will swear by the 2020 version of the game with the expansions. It's just a brilliant game.
I really want to try Uprising.
I want to try it,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine it overtaking Imperium for me. Like just with all those expansions.
What's funny is I think aren't the expansions also compatible with Uprising?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I spoke to somebody about Uprising, and when they were telling me about it, they're like, I love the spies mechanic. And I was like, spies? And I was like, maybe intrigue cards? And they're like, no, spies. I'm like, oh, I don't think I played with spies. And they're like, that was the best part of the game. Wow, the original must have sucked. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is that?
Yeah, maybe.
There's actually spots on the board for the spies.
Mm.
Yeah.
See,
play it eventually.
I want to try it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'll never go buy it, but I would love to. Like next convention I'm at, I'll track it down.
This is why we need Blockbuster to come back, so we can just like rent out a board game for the day. Just like
right, yeah. Yeah, my local store back in Pittsburgh would let you do that. I miss it.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. All right. Moving on here. Number 17, Brass Birmingham. It's always in the top 20 because it is the number one game. People just come to this website who don't know anything about games and they click on the number one game.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's always there. 16 is Skyrise. This is the new one from Roxley Games that they've been promoting for months, years, decades. I don't know. It's coming out. I think it's shipping finally. So that's probably why. Arc Nova, another one that's been in the top 20 forever. No significant reason why. It's just a really popular game. The Mandalorian Adventures at number 14. I thought someone would pick this as their acquisition disorder, but I guess we're all just like not interested in Star Wars anymore. It's from Unexpected Games, which is Corey Konietzka's company. Corey Konietzka, of course, was the mastermind of most of the big box stuff from Fantasy Flight before they got downsized by Asmodee. So it could be good. It doesn't look interesting though. I don't want to say it doesn't look good because I don't know, but like it's just like it's the spiral bound book board and then standees and like 30 cards. So it doesn't look interesting.
Yeah.
I will say I do like games that use spiral bound books. I think it's a great way to like kind of condense things like Gloomhaven, like the different Jaws of the Lion. I think that's the way to do it for like bigger games that you want to like have these module boards and setups.
That's true. I guess I do appreciate it. Like Stuffed Fables was great. They used that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like give me a Star Wars board game. I want it to feel more epic. This doesn't feel epic.
That's what Rebellion's for.
That's true. I do have Epic. Yeah, it's on the shelf.
It's the greatest game of board game tag you will ever play. Or hide and seek.
Yeah. That's the great way to describe
We
that.
talked about this a lot, especially a long time ago when Mandalorian came out. It was such a big hit. We were like, well, where's the game? And here's finally the game. And I think, like you were mentioning, like, it's good. And maybe this is the idea that they're trying to shoot for. Like, Cosmo Games had their Sheriff of Nottingham. You know, maybe it's the idea that it fits a target range, like Target, the big board game store these days. Like, it has all the games. So they're like, hey, let's fit that kind of fan base, gamer base. But it's certainly not what we assume because Outer Rim is out there. So
yeah,
you would think
I feel like that's what was taking advantage of like those newer Star Wars shows that were coming out was Outer Rim, and then they came out with I think it was Risky Business was the expansion.
Yep.
So it's like like you know you're the smuggler, you're like the hotshot pilot, and then I don't know. This one just doesn't seem, at least visually, does not seem as like eye catching as Outer Rim did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This looks like. I guess we should make a Mandalorian board game.
If we have to, the time's come. Okay.
All right, whatever. It's been like 5 years. We should really get this done.
Someone was in a board meeting and they truly had nothing else to pitch, and they were like, "Mandalorian," and they're like, "Yeah, I guess it'll print some money."
Put it on Target shelves, whatever. All right. So that's Mandalorian. It's 14. Number 13 is Sand. This is the new game from Devere, and it takes place in. I didn't know this was a thing, but it's called the Kamushi Saga, which they've kind of put all their recent games into the same universe. So Bamboo and Silk and Bitoku are apparently all in a shared universe.
Oh,
who knew? So it's like a fantasy East Asian type of general appeal, which is, honestly, like, the main issue I have with these games is just they're very busy. Like, and this is not as busy as Bitoku, but you look at the board and it's still kind of busy.
Yeah.
And the player boards look like a lot.
Mhm.
So doesn't mean it'll be bad. I've liked a lot of their games recently, but it looks like a lot.
So I feel like this is going to be more like how Blood Rage, Rising Sun, and Ankh were like a shared thing that Eric Lang made. Like these seem to be like their own little trio of games, I guess, because they're not going to be a trio like how like Century was, where it's like 3 games they can mix together. These are just like 3 games they just kind of share mechanics and certain themes. Like,
Oh yeah, not even like mechanic. It's like just the aesthetic.
okay.
Almost. Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing. It's just, I guess we'll see. I don't know. Bitoku was fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up is number 12 is Heat, Pedal to the Metal, always up here. Popular game, always out of print. So
Well, its expansion is I think going to be shipped. I think mine's already shipped a couple days ago.
Okay. That's the one with the rain.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. 11 is The Sixth Realm, which is, let me guess, Kickstarter.
It's a Kickstarter.
Yeah, there it is.
And it proclaims itself as a heavy Euro too, as well, which I thought was pretty bold.
Oof, 3.88 for the weight.
I watched the video on it, and it was like, all right, you can do this, and this, and this, and also this, and you can do some of this. And I was like, oh no, it's too many too many things here. No, I was like, you're saying it's a heavy Euro, and there's like, again, like 8,000 actions? Okay. I'll come back to it.
I mean, it's interesting. It's got Matthew Dunstan, who did Elysium, and it's got Seth Jaffe, who was like the Tasty Minstrel guy.
Yeah. No, it's got a good pedigree. The boards look great.
Yeah.
It just, they haven't broke it. These campaigns, especially with Kickstarter, I know there's a general complaint across the board about this. Like, you get like, it seems like endless numbers of pages on the campaign, but very little information as far as like, how does the game play? Can you give me a sense of that? Because it's super abstracted here, my friends.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at Board Game Geek, it is a action point chaining endgame bonus market movement point network route building once per game ability set collection solo solitaire tile placement track movement turn order claim action game.
As I said, of 8,000 things.
And even though the game is called Six Realms, the Sixth Realm, it's the setting is 5 realms, which I find very funny here.
Yeah, it's 5 different factions lived in the Sixth Realm, and then that Sixth Realm got all bad, and they had to leave for a different island realm, and this is them coming back to their original homeland, and you're utilizing the 5 different factions because they have different special abilities. So it's very it's a thing. It's an ambitious campaign. So,
but like, so I clicked on the 5 realms. It's saying like 5 realms is the universe. Many of the games from Final Frontier games is set in. It's like Merchant's Cove is part of this universe.
Yeah.
Another shared universe.
Yeah.
Wow, if you look at the artwork, you've seen it before. You've seen and the production seems like incredibly top notch.
Yeah. It looks interesting. I will say I'm getting kind of tired of this. Hey, this game is heavy. Oh, how? It has 400 mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Just like dumping any mechanic they can fit into it.
And physically very heavy. It's got a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
Right. I would love some depth versus breadth,
There you go.
That'd be great.
Vantage will give you exactly what you need.
No, it won't. All right. Into the top 10. Number 10, Knights of the Round Table. This is a new one from Crafty Games, designed by Johnny Pack, who did Merchant's Cove, which we just talked about there. Unconscious Mind he worked on, along with several other people. I know, Chris, you're waiting on that one. So it's an Arthurian Legends game. I love that. You get to choose which cycle of myth you're playing through, which is
that's
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so you could go on a quest for the Holy Grail, or you could build Camelot, or you could build up your round table. It comes with a 3D castle.
Mm-hmm.
I dig this a lot. Not just because I'm an English major, but I don't know. We'll see. Crafty Games has been weird. Like, I have a game from them that's like a year and a half overdue, so I'm like, I don't know if I want to give them more money, but this looks pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I wish they had pictures on Board Game Geek for me to look at because
Yeah, they haven't released too much yet.
yeah, because it seems cool. I'm always a sucker for Knights of the Round.
Yeah, for sure. All right, number 9, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. It's a video game turned into a board game with 1 million mechanics, and it takes 3 hours. Tell me if you heard this one before. Old school games, which is cool, like that we're digging into like old school 90s stuff for board game adaptations. It's not really my jam, but it's cool. I know a lot of people are very excited.
I feel like normally video games turned into board games is my catnip, but I feel like for this one, I just can't get into it.
Yeah, no, me neither.
But like, I feel like every single time I'm always thinking like, ooh, the Metal Gear Solid board game is coming out soon. Ooh, this and that. It's like, it's always like video game turned board game. It's like, oh man, you really got me.
Yeah, but it like almost never works. Right? It's
but when
like,
it does, man, it works.
Yeah. Here's hoping. All right, number 8 is Earth, which we already talked about. Number 7 is Inventions, Evolution of Ideas, which has been shipping the last couple of months. It's the new Lacerda game. So you're inventing stuff, I guess. I don't know. I don't think any of us have played this yet, so we can't talk about it too much.
I think we got off the train. We got off the Lacerda train.
Yeah, expensive and unclear what the game is.
And very, very heavy.
Yeah.
Just like a nightmare to actually get to play these.
Yeah, it's hard. Number 6 is Arcs, which I think we talked about this offline, but this is the new Cole Worley game, which is, it's coming from Leader Games, so it's asymmetrical. It's got a lot of interesting mechanics built in. It plays with multiple players. It has things you can pick up and drop. It's not really a campaign, but things can carry over. It's not really 100% clear what it is yet, but it's in space, and it's got trick-taking somehow mixed in with Euro mechanics, so I backed it. It's coming. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm hoping like this is a game that I didn't back, but I hope someone in the local game group has, so I could just kind of like hop in and try it out to see how it is. I like the fact that it's like space, I guess like 4X ish, but with trick taking, which like you said, like that's a really cool mix of mechanics.
Yeah, it's anybody else, and I'm like, I don't know how that could work, but Cole Worley, I'm like, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
He'll figure it out. That guy knows what he's doing. Number 5 is Power Vacuum, which is another trick-taking type of game. This one's up on Kickstarter right now, and it is a game about winning and losing tricks to manipulate opponents and achieve your agenda. So it's a like political kind of approach, and the aesthetic here is very like Soviet Russia. Like leader has died, there's a power vacuum, now we're trying to take over. It's not bad. It's some kind of alternate universe, but it is that at the same time. Death of Stalin type of stuff. So it looks cool. I like the aesthetic of it a lot. I think that's probably why it's up here more than anything, because it's not making a ton of money on Kickstarter. It's definitely backed, but people are really digging the look and feel of it. Number 4, Slay the Spire, the board game, which we just talked about. Chris, you just talked about this. Number 3, Harmonies. This is a game of creating your own landscape and habitats to welcome animals. Looks very cute.
It does look really cute.
Yeah, it's pattern building, animal environment building. You got these little circle things, and you're stacking them. It's almost got like an Earth vibe where you're stacking a lot of stuff into your own tableau, but smaller and more condensed.
Oh, they're so cute. They look like little jellies.
I know. So you have like cards representing different animals, and each of those cards has like a pattern on it of how you want to stack these different types of little, I don't even know what they are. I guess terrain or something. But it looks very cool. Like kind of abstracty, but it looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is Vantage, which we already ranted about a little bit about an hour ago. And then number 1 is Fallout.
What?
From Fantasy Flight. Yeah,
I have not heard about this. What is this Fallout you speak of?
Yeah, it's a game about a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and there's funny little monsters and stuff. So obviously there's a TV show on Amazon. It's very popular. Someone cracked the code, and now we have multiple shows about video games that are actually very good. So the video games have been doing huge numbers, like 1 million players at a time up on those on Steam. And so the board game, obviously, as well. People are like, wait, there's a board game for that? I will say the board game by itself, meh. There's an expansion for it, which almost certainly is impossible to find now, which makes the game much better. So if you have both of those, great. It's good. If you only have the base game, it's fine. And if you really like the aesthetic, it's fun to play through Fallout stuff. But the game itself is not particularly interesting. It is move your guys around on a map. There's a little bit of puzzle to it, but not much.
Do you think it'll be easy to find this game right now, or you think it's pretty hard to get it?
I don't know if it's out of print or not. I feel like they printed a lot of copies when they made it. It's more the expansion that you would struggle to find. Like the New California expansion is... Oh, no. Actually, it looks like that one's relatively inexpensive as well.
Okay.
So maybe you can get all this stuff.
See, that's what I worry about whenever I see like an older game pop up in the Hotness. I always wonder, like, okay, people are interested. Like, how easy is it to really get it now?
Well, there's a vault, and they're all stored in there. If you can get there, that's just for a certain number of bottle caps, you can certainly open that vault. So it's good.
Right. All right, and there you go, folks. That is the Hotness, the top 50 games. Give you a snapshot of what's going on in the world of gaming right now.
Also, I mentioned Yokohama is getting a reprint, refresh. That'll be coming out with some new components and stuff like that, too. Yeah, Yokohama. I haven't seen that in a while. That was another Tasty Mitchell game, I believe.
Yeah. That is one I backed because I didn't get the Orleans fancy version. So I backed the Yokohama fancy version.
All right, well, that's everything for this week. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And this is Chris.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everyone.